Welcome to the TEMSA Leadership Podcast, a powerful resource for EMS professionals ready to lead from within. Your host, Eric Kloss, is a tenured paramedic, master's prepared nurse with a focus on leadership, national speaker, and two-time author. Together, we're here to inspire, educate, and elevate the EMS community, one leader at a time. Don't just listen, join the conversation. Like, subscribe, and let's grow together.
Jeff, good to have you on the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. Long time coming.
I know. We've been trying to do this for over a year.
Yeah.
And every time we're at a conference, you're busy. And the schedules just won't match up.
No, it hasn't. But it's awesome to be here with you guys. I've watched your podcasts online when you put them out.
Well, we
really
appreciate
neat. Great content.
Well, and hey, you're going to add to it today. I can't wait to talk about it.
I hope so.
Well, for those that don't know you, you interact a lot with us as providers. You have a unique perspective because you set up as a vendor, and we're going to talk about that. But kind of tell everybody who you are and kind of what you do, and then we'll dive into some leadership stuff.
Yeah, well, Jeff Masten, I work with Stryker, just hit 25 years in June.
Congrats.
So pretty neat. So first 12 years in the hospital space, doing stretchers and hospital beds. Developed a couple products, a stretcher, a wheelchair, and a trauma stretcher.
You developed these?
And then, I was on the team that got to develop those. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, really neat. So I worked in Kalamazoo, Michigan, in our marketing department for 4 years, and then transitioned to Nashville to be a manager. Did that for 2 years and just traveled a lot, 110 nights a year for about 6 years. And, my family is important to me, and I didn't really know them. So worked with Stryker, and we got, off the management back into sales in 2013 is when I got into EMS. And, I didn't really know much about EMS at the time, so I just ingrained myself in it. And I've been selling COTS, power loads, monitors, and Lucas since 2013. So all in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Jeff, you have an interesting perspective here and why I wanted to talk to you about it is because not only do you have a product and a lot of people use it and you're very knowledgeable of it and you do your job very well, there's a whole nother side of this is that you are kind of, you have another skill set that EMS providers and services have used. And I haven't personally taken the class, but everybody that I have talked to just raved about, man, Jeff is an incredible teacher. You're an amazing communicator, first of all. And so tell everybody about the leadership stuff that you do and that class and why it's important.
Yeah, so 2013, I got into EMS and started meeting people, went to TASA and just asked a lot of questions. And I make a joke about it, but I saw COTS and power loads and stair chairs. Once you sell that, it's a long 10 years. They don't buy them out, or 8 years, whatever it is. And I looked at the leadership part of it and just asking a lot of questions. I found out that the path was you're an amazing paramedic or maybe an amazing AMT, and then they touch you on the shoulder and say, hey, would you like to be a supervisor or would you like to be a director? And then so I dug a little bit deeper and said, well, what do you guys do to get people ready to be a leader? And they looked at me with blank eyes and they're just like, hey, here's your roster. Good luck. Have fun. And, at Stryker, we are fortunate that we're a big company. I think we just crossed 20 billion last year. So hips, knees, and shoulders are big for us. And then we've got this little EMS side over there. But what you learn is we do a lot with the Gallup organization. And the Gallup organization is big on strengths and understanding yourself. And then we also do a lot of leadership. So when I became a manager at Stryker, they would give me a mentor in operations or in R&D would be my mentors, not somebody in sales. So that way you're well versed with different ways of management. So you go through a management class and do that. So I found that out. And then I've been to Gallup 3 times to learn about that. So long story short, I sat down with the director and we were talking about it. And he was the head of TASA at the time. I won't say his name because I always embarrass him, but I won't say his name. But I said, what does TASA do to help these leaders? He's like, well, right now we really don't do much. This was 2013. I was like, well, how about this? I said, I sell power loads and power COTS, and after that is done, how about I come in and do a class for you based on leadership? I was like, because what happens is we only understand leadership from who we see, right? So who was our manager beforehand, or who our parents were, or maybe reading books. That's how we understand it. We don't really see that. And I said, The problem we have is that we have to understand ourselves first before we can go out and lead somebody else. If we can't lead ourselves, we can't lead somebody else. So my goal was to get people to understand who they were first and what strengths they had, and then we can start working on them leading other people. So that's kind of how the class evolved. And then I was fortunate to talk at TASA, TEMSA, I spoke here 1 year, TARS I spoke, and a couple other conferences. And then I think I'm up to 17 services now I've done this leadership talk at. So pretty neat.
That's incredible. What are some of the principles that you teach that you think have really connected with the audience here in the EMS space?
Yeah. So I'll use an analogy that I use with most people when I'm talking about this is, Lee's our boss. And he says, Eric, I want you and Jeff to go out and buy me a new ambulance. All right. So we'll use the ambulance, for instance. And so you are strategy. So in this theme thing, there's 34 themes that every person has. And in the heat of the battle, 5 themes come out, which are your strengths. Okay. So you're a strategy guy and I'm an activator. All right. And so, we work together. We really don't know each other really intimately, but we know each other, from having fun together or maybe working a truck together. So he says, go out and buy me an ambulance. So what you'll do is you'll sit down as a strategic person. You'll write down all the steps that you need to get done to buy the ambulance. Well, I'm an activator. And what I would do is I will run right out there and I'll start calling all the ambulance manufacturers and finding out the prices and getting demos and everything like that. And so what would happen is I would come back to you and say, Eric, I've got all these ambulances. They're going to be here this date. They're going to be this date. And then you're like, well, wait, that's not the plan. And so then we go to Lee with this, with what we want to do with ambulances. But is that the best possible answer for the service? And the answer is no, right? And so now if I understood who you were and you understood who I was, now Lee says, I want Eric, you and Jeff go buy an ambulance. We now sit down and you start writing out the strategy, right? Because I don't have strategy. And then you say that you're in your strength now. And you say, Jeff, you go now and activate on this and act on this. And now I go out and get that. I bring that information back to you. We put it together and now we take it to Lee and it's the best possible outcome, right? So let's take a step back on that. Is if in the meantime, if we were to do the first way, I would say, what would I think of you at that point? Like, Eric didn't do anything.
Right.
Who is he? Like, why does this guy not do anything? I did it all. But what would you think at that point? You'd be like, well, that guy, he knows everything. He doesn't care what I think. And now there's a rift between us, right? Mm-hmm. But if I understand who you are and your strengths, and you understand who I am and my strengths, then now we can work together to bring the best possible outcome to the service. So that's kind of how I pitch it. And I think when we go through the class, we sit down and everybody talks about the strengths out loud to everybody else. And people can say, oh, I understand why he does that, and it just really makes it so great points. I had my wife take this because she does some things that I just did not understand at all. And so she's got harmony. She wants everything to be equal. She wants everything to be kind. And like one day she'll do something, next day she'll do something else. And I'm just like, why do you do that? And then now that I understand it, it makes sense.
What are some of the titles of the things? So you've said harmony.
Yeah.
What are some of the other
titles?
So
I tell you, I'll just go through mine. So competition. I have competition, communication, command, activator. And so those are 4 of my top, right? And so
out of how many? You said 30?
Out of 34. So they give you your top 5 when you take this book, and then they give you your top 5. They don't want to give you your bottom 5 because you'll start thinking about that, and you can't make a weakness into a strength. It's impossible. But you can make a strength more of a strength.
So when you were saying that, I've known you for years. Like every one that you said, like without question, I could say that's Jeff.
100%. Yeah.
I'm asking you spontaneously, what do you think mine would be without taking it? And I took it some time ago, but I can't remember what it is.
I would probably positivity.
Okay.
I'd probably say harmony. You're pretty even keel. I'd probably say you're probably strategic. Let's see. I don't know, I'll probably say those 3, I would think, but
I might need to this could be a therapy session for me.
We might have to talk about it. It's really interesting though, because and a lot of people know me, but I have a very strong personality, and I like to talk fast. That's not a podcast, right? But in that respect, I have to learn. So for 25 years, I've been doing this is to learn how to take those strengths and when to use them and when not to use them. Because another one is command. So I do not like be sitting in a group and we don't make a decision, I will make a decision for you guys just because I want to go. And so I've learned how to mask that and not have to, to use that all the time.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting in your world because you're communicating a whole lot, and you're in sales. But I would also say every single one of the EMS providers listening to this, you are in sales. We're in influence. They're even down to the level of we will sell a patient on why they need to go to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So we're all in it. It's just that the structure looks a little bit different. I'm very curious, Jeff, and would love to talk to you about this because we don't have the opportunity to get people on that is in a different space besides EMS. Yes, you have a touch point, but let's talk about corporate world and leadership for just a minute. What is the difference that you see in the corporate world? You had mentioned billions of dollars. It's hard to wrap your head around that. And how many employees does Stryker have, do you think?
Over 50,000 now.
Okay, so massive.
Yeah.
And what is it like to work in leadership in organizations with and I'm saying this, it may be completely wrong, but it would appear that there's very strict structure with that because of hierarchies and because there's so many people. What are some lessons that you've learned within the corporate setting that you think would cross over to in the EMS and pre-hospital world?
So the things that I've seen when I do my talks and we talk about, like we do another thing called Q12. There's 12 engagement questions that come out and people get to talk about what they think of the service. And the things I hear all the time is number one, and I think this is one of the hardest things in EMS. Some people do it, but most don't. Is how do you know that you're doing well in your job, right? So at Vanderbilt, you guys probably have a yearly review, maybe a mid-year review, and you've got also the beginning of the year, they tell you exactly, hey, here's what your job description is, and here's what I want you to go for this year. EMS, what I found is there aren't many people that have job descriptions. So you're a great paramedic, you're a great EMT, and you don't know if you're doing a good job, right? You know if you're doing a bad job because you get called into the carpet, but how do you know that you're doing a good job? So the first thing I'd say is how do we set parameters around what is a great job? Because in life, right, one of my favorite quotes is excellence and comfort cannot coexist, right? If you're comfortable, you'll never be excellent, right? And to say that, but if you're not challenged, you can't be excellent, right? And everybody needs to be challenged because when you're challenged, then your mind starts working in a different way. Well, if you don't know how you're going to be rated in your job performance, or if you're not told what you're doing well, how do you get challenged? So that's one thing I think we need to see is we need reviews. Or we need to say, here, sit down, here's how we're doing. So that's, I'd say, the first thing.
Let's park there for just a second because I have noticed this, and EMS looks different all around the country, from county to county. It's not something that you can work here, and it's just different. Protocols, guidelines are different. And that is one of the things that I wanted to park on a second to mention is that the inconsistencies in performance evaluations, and I would say performance conversations. So I've been in a director's role for over 10 years, and I meet with my executive leadership that are very high in the organization every single week. And we have a conversation. But I also have a structured evaluation every 6 months, and it's a conversation. And then I have a full mid-year or 1 year review. But for those that don't have this and they're in leadership within the EMS space, I think that is critical to help your providers. It's not just for you as a leader, but it's helpful for the providers. One of the things that I learned from one of the administrators that I report to two of them actually, is that they do not like surprises. So if I am out of line, I'm going to know that week, as in, hey, there's an opportunity. So saving it for 1 year or saving it to where you're calling the person in when they mess up that's not a good strategy, in my opinion. Have you noticed that as well? Let me back up and ask that again, Jeff. How has having the mid-year performance evaluations or conversations helped you get better?
Well, if I know what I'm working towards, right, and then we come to mid-year, or, we call it halftime, right? You think about a great sports team, and at halftime they come in, right? They got scripted their first 11 plays. They go in at halftime, and they say, what are we doing right? Right? What are we doing right? What can we exponentially do better? And then how do we course correct to get to where we want to go the rest of the year? And I think that mid-year review really helps you course correct. Or am I on the right path? Yes. What else could I do to get to that point, to maybe to be better, or to maybe make more money, whatever that is. And it really is about course correct, I think, is what that mid-year review is. Just kind of stands of where I'm at right now and what do I need to do for the rest of the year, I think is really key.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is so important, and I think there's a gap there that I think most of us really can fill. And I'll tell you what it has done for me is because I know those things come up that is approaching, I'm more mindful of the things that I need to self-correct before my 6 month is up. And that's a pretty good strategy. Any other things that, you've learned that you could share with us from?
Yeah. Let me just take a step out of that one. Just say you talked about no surprises. And also, if you are going to do reviews, a mid-year review should not be a surprise to the people that you're speaking with, right? It should be a conversation. You should be communicating with them most of the year. I mean, they get that mid-review, it's more formality, right? And then kind of where you're going.
Great
but
point.
If it's somebody comes in their meeting and you say something about the mid-review and they're just like, I didn't even not know that. Like what?
Exactly.
That's poor leadership.
Exactly.
Right? That should not happen. So I would say that's the first thing. The second thing I would probably say would be, with corporate, the CEO, board of directors, they set the vision for the company, right? And they pass the vision down from the CEO down to all the way to the lowest level employee. The people, the culture keepers, I call them, are your frontline managers, your supervisors. I would say the same thing in EMS, right? It's our supervisors, you get tapped on the shoulder to become a supervisor, they become a supervisor, they were peers with these people, and then all of a sudden now they're their managers, right? And that dynamic changes from being a friend to now being a boss. However, what the leadership sets as the culture or where you want to go, the frontline manager has to be the people to carry that out. Whether it's popular with the people underneath them or not popular, this is who we want to be. And like I said, the culture keepers are those frontline managers because they are the ones that are going to set the rules, or act out the rules, I should say.
How do you, this is interesting that you say that. My mind's racing right now. Let's go back to the point that you made about the person that is peers. Then they take the position of management, supervisor, whatever you title it. Now their peers, they are now responsible for.
Yes.
What advice can you give in that space? Because this happens a lot in healthcare and EMS. I'm with Lee, and then all of a sudden Lee gets promoted, and now Lee's my boss. Like, what are some tips that you can give the people that advance to those positions now, or that are now responsible and the boss of their peers?
Yeah. So, it's kind of interesting. I got, not say smacked in the face with this one, but I was in Salesforce with Stryker. Made my number 7 out of 7 years, thought I was great. I went into marketing, and now I'm training new sales reps, and I thought my way was best.
Okay.
Because I made it every year, right? And then I flourished every year, and I'm like, I could. This is the way everybody should do it. And I found out that no, not everybody does it the same way. So I equate it a lot to hitting a golf ball. Everyone's got weird swings. Charles Barkley's got a weird swing. Michael Jordan's got a swing. Justin Thomas, but they all get to the ball at the right way to hit it straight. Right? And so all of us work differently, but we all can come up with the same result at the end. So that's the first thing, is that everybody's unique, right? And just because I work with you does not necessarily understand that I know how you work, right? Because we're partners, or just because we're peers, or we see each other at conferences, or you're on A shift, I'm on B shift. But I have to understand who the person is, right? And I think that's the key, is investing in people, right? Understanding who they are as a person, because who they are as a person is going to how they work. You can't walk out of your car and shut the door on your personal life and go to work and not worry about your personal life. And if your managers don't know what's going on in your personal life, or tuned to it, then they're not going to give you grace or the worker. So I think that's the first thing, is understanding who they are. And the second thing that I understand is, what do their managers want? Like, what does the director of the service want? What is his vision for the service? And you kind of ask, like, what is corporate America do? We have a vision, right? At Stryker, our job is to work with our customers to make healthcare better. Every single employee in the company can say that. When I do my EMS leadership talks, I say, what is the vision of your service? And most people don't know what the vision of service is, And then I'll ask, what are the 5 non-negotiables for your service? Like, what are they? Like, if you knew you were going to get written up, what are those 5 things? And most people can't say what the 5 non-negotiables are, right? And so those are the things that the manager now has to sit down with people and say, hey, here's why we're doing this, right? And it's no longer the case where you can say, you have to do this because you work for this. This is why we do this. Like, it's like your kids, right? I mean, the kids, the worst question in the whole world is you tell them to do something, they say, why? My dad I never said why to my dad, right? Ever. But these kids say why, and you understand that. So long story short is, you have to understand the person, right? When you become that, you've got to get to know them a little bit better. And then you've also got to know what your managers want, because now you're stepping into a different role, and now you are in charge of their security and their safety.
That's really
and that's
good.
a big deal.
That is a huge deal. And I'm going to put this back on some of the leadership and the directors would be, don't expect your team to come to you and ask you why. That needs to be pushed down from top to bottom during the communication to say, let's just remind everybody here that this is why you're here. This is what the top 5 things are that are non-negotiables.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's all about communication. But it also, for those that are listening to this, maybe you assume but until you put it on paper and you see it, it allows making decisions easier when you know what the goal is.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. It guides you.
It guides you. It's that's really good. And I think for EMS, there are those 5 non-negotiables will probably be pretty straightforward, because there's disciplinary attached to that, because we all have license and we have to stay within the guardrails. Wow, this is really good, and it gives people a different way to think.
It's common sense, right? Be polite, right? Be on time, like dress appropriately. Yeah.
Let's pause right here.
Those are 3 easy things, right?
But they're not.
But they're not.
But they're not. Well, they are, but they are not followed through. We have, and I want you to you share this, but this is how dramatic this is. You're in a lot of systems, and let me ask you this question. Can you walk into a service, and you've been in services all around the country, fair statement?
Yeah.
That you can walk into one service and it's like, that employee came from this service because of how they conduct themselves, how groomed they are, their shirts are tucked in, their boots are not hanging out, they're polished. And then you can walk into a service that is completely laxed and no accountability, and it's sloppy. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the way you do anything. What do they say? The way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
Right? And that saying they say, and I think that is so true.
And it represents.
It does represent. There's some services I go to, and they're washing their ambulances every morning. And not to say that you need to have a clean ambulance roll up, but I mean, they're washing the ambulance. Like, that's just a step further. You understand that they take care of what they're doing. And that's just, I think going back to what you said about that, this is what I learned when I did my research on the stretchers, right? So I was talking to nurses when I was doing that, and the same thing with EMS. And if you don't know how to use the product, or you don't look professional, how do they know how good you are with your skills? If you're showing up professional, and you're showing up polite, and you know how to work something, they're going to trust you. Because they don't know how good you are with your skills as a paramedic or EMT. But if you do everything else right, they're going to give you that benefit of the doubt and that trust, right? That's really what I learned. You got to get that across to people to say, go in there being polite. You go in. I mean, we're in the people business.
That's exactly right.
That's
and
it.
And even taking this even a step further and more specific would be if you and I, or Lee, who's in the room with us, if we called for an ambulance and it was us that needed care, or our parents, or whoever, we are judging as soon as that apparatus pulls up in the front
Oh, yeah.
of the house. And when they walk in, we are sizing individuals up. So I don't want to downplay that, because every time you walk into a room, you are immediately creating the first impression about, hey, Jeff looks sharp. Like every time I see you, you are professionally dressed. You are representing your product. And it's not about, well, I'm just on an ambulance. No, like when you walk in, your presence is making people trust you sooner or later. If you're coming in and you're not groomed, and you can control that. Sometimes, we're back-to-back calls, and yes, but for those conscious things, and you're walking and you're professional, and it does make a difference to the people that we're serving, because you
100%.
never know who they are.
Yeah. And you might never see them again.
That's right.
But that first impression does matter.
And you represent the whole organization by you, by me, by you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got ADD, so I'm all over the place.
I love this. This is awesome.
What you said, that comment you just said there, is one of the things in my leadership class I teach most. The name on the front of the jersey is more important than the name on the back of the jersey, right? As people, we care about our own needs. We're selfish, right? I always say we do things for other people because it makes us feel good. But at the end of the day, when you go out there, I work, that name on the front of the jersey has to mean more than the name on the back of the jersey, right? Because we're a team. And I try to get that across to everybody, that this is what we need. Yeah. This is the culture that we keep, right?
Makes a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
And we believe it, we believe in it, other people believe in it. Like you just said, man, it makes your job easier. It makes your decisions easier. It makes everything easier, because you're guided by what your mission is. You're guided by, when you see other people doing quality work, you want to do quality work. You don't want to let them down, right?
That's right. That's right.
And when you see people doing non-quality work, right, whether they're untucked or whether they do something wrong, then guess what, man? You're just like, wow. Yeah. Like you'll let that go for a little while. But if the leaders, the supervisors let that go, then guess what? We will all start letting it go. And as you know, it's just little things over the course of days all become a bad employee.
It is.
And you don't mean to be.
That's right.
But you just let other things happen.
Yeah. And I'll leave everybody with this. Thank you, Jeff. This is absolutely incredible. And I want to, this was the thought that I had, is we're recording this at the Educators Conference in July, the end of July of 2025. And when we talk about professionalism and we talk about game on, when you walk into the vendor hall here, this is the impression that, just based on our conversation, when you walk into that vendor hall and it's a break time and you know that there's going to be a mad rush, every single vendor, the dozens of vendors are in there, are game on. And you can go to every booth and there's commonalities: professionalism, the way they're dressed, the way their stuff is cleaned, the way that you all communicate. That is the model, I think, of how we need to represent our services and our organizations. There comes a time when you can sit down when nobody's in there and you're a little more relaxed. But it's when those tones drop and you're game on, it's the same aspect. You can walk in there and all of you are professional. Yes, you all have different product lines, but it's a model of professionalism and leadership and communication. And I think there's a lot to that. So for those that are listening and you go to a conference, when you go into the vendor hall, everybody is generally the same, game on. And I think that is a final lesson that we all can learn from you all, because this is your space. You represent the product. And it's just critical that we do that. And man, I'm privileged to call you friend, because we talk all the time, man. And
I've listened to
I look
your
up to you,
story,
so.
And I've just watched you, and I marvel at what you do. You and Lee both. I mean, these podcasts are amazing. The time you put into it, and I always go back to that guy that, no arms, no legs.
Yes.
And I mean, the podcast, the
Jason.
first one I ever listened to.
Dude,
that was unbelievable. I'm listening to this guy's attitude, and I'm like, man, like.
Seriously.
I really cannot be mad about what I'm mad about right now, because that guy is just insane, what he's doing and who he is as a person. And thanks for this opportunity. I'll leave you with this, because yesterday was Leadership Day, And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it talks about leadership. And it said, the great leaders of our time were George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Jesus, you say that. And what are they known for? They're known for their speeches. But when it comes to leadership, no longer can we walk out and tell everybody what to do, right? And there's one of my favorite leaders in here, and I'll call him out by name because I just love, is Michael Wallace.
Yes.
Like, he's just an amazing guy and what he does. But one thing I thought of him is 99% of that, so 1% is the speech. 99% of that is going out into the field and understanding and listening to your people. And then the speech is the culmination of what everybody told you, is just bringing that back to the people. And I think that's so valuable, because if you want your team to buy in, or your employees to buy in, if you go out and listen to them and then come back and implement what they're asking for, that's 100% buy-in from all those people, and they feel like you're listening to them. And so I just say, for any leader out there, is just listen to your people. The frontline people have more information than anybody else has right now. And if we just listen to them and understand that, and some things we can do, some things we can't, communicate it. But if you are now listening to them and then bringing back what they say, and you make that, then you'll get people buy in, and then you won't have much turnover. And that's the whole goal of this job, right?
Yes.
The turnover.
So good, man.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. It's
Man,
awesome.
thank you. This is absolutely
This is my first one
incredible.
I ever done, and I wore the ugliest shirt on the first one I ever did.
I like that shirt.
You know me, I'm a black guy. I only wear black, and so today I decided to wear this shirt, and I didn't know I was doing a podcast.
No, I love it, man.
Hopefully
Thanks.
I didn't blend in with a chair.
No, I love it, man. Well, we appreciate everything you do for the industry,
well,
really.
thank
You are a huge difference maker, and we're grateful.
I will tell you, like, when I first started in EMS, there's three things in life that happen. I say there's three things in life, right? You die, you pay your taxes, and you call 911, an ambulance shows up. And these people that listen to this podcast or whatever it is are unbelievable. What we talk about today is just, how do we make EMS better, right? And that's the whole goal, is how do you make things better? But right now, the people we talked about that are on time, that are polite, that are dressed right, that's 90% of it, or people are like that. And I'm blessed to call them friends. I'm blessed to call you friends. But what you guys do every day is unbelievable, right? You see people at their worst. You see families where they don't understand if their family member is going to live or die. And you have the empathy, and you have the relationship building, and then you go and you execute and you save lives. That's unbelievable. It is truly unreal what you do. And I'm glad that I'm able to help out with this, because it's truly an amazing profession that finally you guys are getting the notoriety and the pay that you deserve. So thank you for bringing this, broadcasting this to more people.
Well, folks, you heard it from one of the best. And Jeff, man, we're grateful you joined us on the podcast, and I look forward to watching your journey continue, man. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We look forward to talking with you again. And don't forget, the most important person that you're ever going to lead is you. Take it seriously, and we'll talk soon. First responders are the backbone of our communities, but often funding restrictions leave stations without essential resources. That's where Serve Strong, Corbin Scott Goad Memorial Foundation steps in. They understand that not every response is a rescue, which is why they focus on ensuring first responders are well-rested, physically fit, mentally strong, and equipped with the resources and education they need to save lives. Serve Strong is dedicated to filling in the gaps for first responders, addressing needs that stations might not be able to cover. The foundation exists because of the compassion and professionalism of first responders, witnessed firsthand in the midst of tragic circumstances. If your department needs support, or if you want to support their mission, visit servestrong.us. That's servestrong.us. Serve Strong, Corbin Scott Goad Memorial Foundation. Because when we're strong, our communities are strong too. Elaina, thanks for being on the podcast today.
You're welcome.
We're fired up. We have known each other for over 30 years.
I know, it's tremendous, isn't it?
It's wild of how fast time goes, and how our community, when you come into the community, it's family. You may not see each other for a year at a time, but it's like everybody picks up where they left off. And I'm super excited about you joining us today. You have a lot of leadership experience, and we're here at the conference. This recording is, I'm not sure when everybody's going to hear it. And you're involved in the leadership project that many of us are involved in, and we're grateful for your service. You have so much value to add. And you are working with a group now with the supervisors training that
That's correct.
y'all are doing. And I've been hearing about it. I'm not directly involved, but through the circles of hearing what you all are doing. And you guys are in the development phases. And I wanted to talk to you. Well, first, let's tell everybody you're an assistant chief at Metro Nashville Fire Department in the EMS
correct.
division. And how long have you been at NFD?
I have been at NFD since October of 1992, so 37 years.
Okay. So quite a while, right?
Yeah,
Just
32.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a while.
And
32 years.
And what is your role? I mean, it's a big department. We've had Chief Smith on and Chief Swan in the past. It's a very big department. There's a lot that goes on there. And what is your responsibility as assistant chief?
So I'm an assistant chief over the EMS in EMS operations, and that basically relates to a shift commander. So I'm responsible for all the medical operations in the city while I'm on duty. So there are 4 of us in that role.
Okay. It's a very busy role, isn't it?
It is. I want to say in 2024 we had over 136,000 responses.
Wow. And how long have you been in that role, functioning at that high level of leadership?
Over 4 years.
Over 4 years. Okay. I want to talk to you about that. Before we do that, I want to circle back around to the leadership project and the supervisors training. You have a view from the inside building it. Kind of share with everyone why it's important. Why do you think it's important to really trained supervisors? Yes, we get training, but to this level, what are some of the things that are going to be taught in that course? And why do you think it would be important for those listening that are interested in supervisors training?
Right. Well, the first concern is that most people get put into a supervisor's role and they don't feel confident in that area. They're used to doing tactical, they're used to doing operational things, and then they're thrust into a supervisor's role where they have to know more soft skills, more budget and finance, where they have to know more about human relations and human resources information. And that's something that a lot of us have had to learn on the job. A lot of us have had to take extra classes for. And so I feel like this project from the state of Tennessee, this leadership project, is absolutely forward thinking in trying to provide additional training for people who are either planning on becoming a supervisor or have that in their thought process about, I'd like to be a supervisor one day, because most of us know that we've had poor supervisors, we've had ineffective supervisors, and so our focus is, how do I be better than that? And some of this training will help with some of those inconsistencies that you may not have coming straight out of operations, coming straight out of yesterday I was working on an ambulance and working with one patient, maybe 2 at a time, and now I'm responsible for X number of additional people and all of the concerns that come along with that.
We're so excited. I know this is going to be a super popular session that a lot of people are going to want to plug into. Your experience is pretty rich. Tell us about you've traveled nationally, you've done some leadership stuff. Tell us kind of, what has some of that work been for you?
So I've been very fortunate. My leadership journey started pre-planning many, many years ago, in that I always thought I was always trying to do more for myself and learn more and be more educated about everything that I was going to be involved with. So that involved additional classes, that involved going to as many EMS nights out and as many additional classes as I could to get additional information to help me do my job. That developed into finishing my bachelor's degree. That developed into, look, there's another class that's available. That went into the Executive Fire Officer program at the National Fire Academy, which is a master's level program. and very popular, but also a lot of high-level executive chiefs and a lot of high-level chiefs in other departments in other states have that credential. So then after that came up, I completed that. That was a 4-year project. And once that was completed, I realized that there were more classes involving EMS at the national level, at the National Fire Academy in Maryland, that needed to be publicized. People need to be aware of this, because just because you work for a fire department doesn't mean you automatically know it. And EMS in any form works with fire departments because you're responding with them, or they're dealing with extrication with you. So it's not just for fire-based EMS. So I've been fortunate enough to be a contract instructor for them for several years, and I am involved in teaching their EMS incident operations class, and I'm involved in, I was able to pilot a 2-day supervision and leadership, supervising EMS class for them, and I've been very fortunate to travel all over the country and deliver that class. I've been to FDNY, I've been to New Hampshire, I've been to Indiana, I've been to South Carolina, and the overwhelming response is that it is a full class every time. It is a very hard-hitting, full 2-day class, but it talks about the soft skills. It talks about transitioning to leadership. It talks about time and task management. It talks about human relations, human resources. It's labeled as talent management in this course that from the National Academy, but talent management is what it is, because we're not just managing human resources, we're managing talent as well. Yeah. And then mental health, health and safety of your crews, what you have to think about, and some of the laws and regulations that actually back up some of the other policies that you're aware of. There is really a law that usually backs up some of the things that we tend to do. And so being able to be familiar with those and being able to fill that gap between the tactical and the operational side, the soft skills.
What about, I'm curious with what you were saying. We have a lot of people that listen to this on a variety of levels. Some are, and we've had several conversations. I know you've had conversations of people that are not officially in a leadership role. They're aspiring to be a leader, and you had mentioned transitioning into leadership. So what are some advice that you could give a provider? They come up to you, they're doing their job well,
right,
and they are wanting to get to the next level. What is some of that advice that you would give them, coming from your view of very experienced and now teaching this stuff? What would you give them in a hallway conversation about these are things that are important?
So what I give people when they ask me is think about doing things that are extra. Your supervisor, your leadership expects you to come to work and do a good job. Expand your knowledge base. Move outside what I'm just coming to work and doing what I'm supposed to do. Go to different classes, go to some leadership classes, go to how to do things better. It doesn't always have to be fire and EMS related.
That's right.
It can be business related. My undergraduate degree is in business management. It has nothing to do with EMS, but it has helped me because I'm also able to relate to other people outside the fire department and outside the EMS department, which those people need to understand how we're communicating, and I need to be able to talk to those people on their level, not with fire and EMS jargon, not with terminology that they're not familiar with. And so that's been very helpful. And encouraging people to reach out. Let me know if you need some more information, and I'm always tied into other classes that are going on or other situations. You might have to travel. You might have to, leave the confines of your area, right, but it also helps you see how other people handle their situations.
That's right. In these conferences in Tennessee, and I know there's conferences in every state, there's different organizations, and they're all different. If these individuals are in Tennessee, these are great places to network and to establish contact and sharing of information, because we're all service-oriented individuals. We're never, if somebody says, hey, do you mind if we schedule a call, all of us are going to be like, of course, how can I help? And that's great. That's certainly great advice. I love the extra mile. What came to my mind was Zig Ziglar, I think it was him, which he he was like one of the grandfathers, of leadership. You can find him on YouTube, I'm sure. But he always said, I'll never forget it, in one of the books or tapes I was listening to, he said, there's a lot of traffic on road to normal. He said, but the extra mile, there's very few people on. There's not much traffic. And I thought, wow, I'll never forget that, which is true. Most people, stay at baseline, but it's those people that do extra and above. And I'll share this quality before we wrap up, just to, when you're talking about soft skills, and we had an opportunity to talk about this and give one of our speakers, Jamie, yesterday some kudos, and she did something that she didn't even realize that's a true leadership thing, and you did it as well, and I wanted to highlight it. You do it naturally, I do it naturally. But you and I had a conversation yesterday about doing this podcast, and it was like, we should be ready to go roughly at 8 o'clock. And you were here way before that, ready. And those are the things that, when you're functioning at leadership levels, are the standard. As in, you don't forget about things. You show up early, you are ready to go, and it's just, those are the soft skills that I think that are underappreciated from the people that are interested in getting into leadership. Are there any more closing things that you could share about some of those soft skills that providers may not be thinking about? Where it's like, oh wow, yeah, okay, I appreciate that now since you mentioned.
Right. I think one of the things I'd like to share is that if you have a problem that you think management or your leadership needs to know about, bring a solution with you.
That's a great point.
If you just bring the problem, then I have no idea which direction you want it to go, and it may not be the direction you want it to go. But if you've already researched it, which means you've taken the time to research it, you've taken the time to see what the options are, you've taken the time to see what capabilities we may have. It may include changing policy. It may include getting different equipment. But having that and bringing it to your leadership in a package instead of just bringing the problem doesn't let us have any way to go with that.
Great advice. And you think about it, through our years of leadership, there are so many complainers. We've all done it. But that is such an insight, because you're not being part of the problem. You're not feeding the problem. You're saying, okay, this is a problem, and asking ourselves that question, what could we do to fix that? And that makes you shine as a provider to your level of leadership in the circles that I've worked in too. It's a very, very powerful thing. And everybody, I hope you took some notes on this. This was absolutely fabulous to have you on here. And I know with all of your work, you add so much value to the industry. You have for years. And to call you friend truly is an honor. But thank you for what it is you do, Elaina. You make a huge difference, and we're grateful you're on the team.
You're welcome. Thanks.